All right. So welcome to another episode of Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm Coach Nrgy.
I'm Aphrodite.
And I'm Emmanuel.
All right. So this week we're going to talk about priorities, some of the priorities in life, some of the priorities in relationships, and how you determine what your priorities are going to be. Okay. So depending on, situations in your life and also your relationship, that's an interesting topic to say, how do you set your priorities, right? Like most people would think that, top priority would be the start with your needs, right? Like what do you need, right? So most people like to eat, most people like to spend money on certain things. So obviously job or, food would be your top priority because, hey, that's important to you, right? So to me, would you say that, setting your priorities in your life would be based on need or more so want? What do you think that people would mostly land with that? The need thing, that's how you set your priorities? Or is it just what?
I say it's a combination of both of what, answering the question that you asked, what do people typically do? I believe that they typically set it both off of a combination of what they need and some of what they want.
Yeah. That's interesting though that I said that and then you also said that too, but because when you look at it from a relationship standpoint, it's the same way.
You said, is it the same way?
Yeah. Is it you set the same priority based off of what you need and want too? Yeah. I would say it's still a combination. It may be a little bit more imbalanced. Okay, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Right,
yeah.
Maybe a little bit more imbalanced, but yeah, I believe people will include both need and want whenever they're making a decision of prioritizing.
Yeah. So would you say that even with your need or with prioritizing and setting what your priorities are, do you think that it's also determined by the stage in life that you're in too?
Absolutely. Because as you get older, you get wiser. When you know better, you do better, So as you experience certain things, as you go through life and experience certain things, you start to learn and formulate different needs, different wants based off of, now that you've been through some stuff. So yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting thing. Age versus wisdom, right? Sometimes your age doesn't necessarily depict your wisdom on certain things.
Nah, and that what Aaliyah said? Age ain't. Wait, was it Aaliyah? Who said that? Age ain't nothing but a number. It wasn't Aaliyah. Who said that?
A lot of people said that,
I think R. Kelly said that too.
Yeah, well.
You're not going to even touch those bases. He feel about that.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
Good one, Josh. Good one. We're 5 minutes in? We're 5 minutes in.
He lived his lyrics out.
Wow. And you were worried about where I was going to take this episode? Oh, no. You have just now taken it way there, okay?
Hey, you left it out there. I'm sorry, okay? It was funny.
You not put that on me.
Oh, man. You did. You it ain't no number. I'm okay. It's comedy. I'm sorry. It's funny. Oh, man. Oh man, but that's priority. It's kind of hard to follow that one. Where do you go from there? Oh man, where do you go from there? Oh, okay, so
anywhere but there, basically. Anywhere.
Oh man. Oh dang. So priorities, right? So. Whew, oh man, it's hot.
Josh can't even get it right.
Okay, because it was so funny when I said it. So, why are you still laughing? Oh man.
We ain't gonna get through the show, boy. I said before we start cutting up.
Okay, man. Ooh, man. I wish she stopped. I wish she stopped laughing, man. I'm laughing because she laughing, man.
I'm laughing because you had all your sound effects.
Oh man.
All
But
right.
like I said, let's get back to this priority thing, man. I gotta get serious. Oh man. But setting priorities in your life, right? So do you think that it is subsequently easier and or harder to start setting priorities for your life when you're single or in a relationship? I know we made that comparison before, right? So setting priorities, is it easier when you're single or when you're in a relationship?
I think when you're single.
Single.
Because when you got to set priorities in your life, when you're in a relationship, you got to consider other people.
Yep.
When you're single, I'm personally considering it yourself.
Yep.
Yep, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
That wasn't an it depends moment.
No,
I was waiting for Emmanuel to say,
Is it easier to set them? Oh, it's easier to set them now. Are they going to be quality priorities? Now, I don't know.
you don't think so? Just because you're single, you don't think the priorities will be of quality?
I think there's a chance that they could be better if you're in a relationship. Better position.
Really?
I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
I can't totally agree with that.
It's easy to set priorities no matter who you are if you're by yourself. There's no objection.
But that doesn't mean they're not going to be as more of a quality. That doesn't mean that
Right.
the quality is not going to be good.
Right. So that's what Josh was saying. Oh, well, is it easier to set? Now, when he talks about the quality of the priorities, I think that sometimes having a significant other involved in that could benefit. Because if someone is unable to or does not have the judgment to set quality priorities, another perspective can help align those priorities in the direction where they need to go. So,
But can that perspective still be someone but not necessarily someone in a relationship with that person? Can it just be another
Right.
perspective, period? And
Oh,
not
yeah.
having to be a partner, not having to be in a relationship to then be able to set quality priorities.
oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
I honestly think in many cases, assuming both individuals are qualified or somewhat competent, two is better than one when it comes to setting priorities. Because there are perspectives you may not see, there are things you may not consider, there may be things that you don't realize that another person can help you to see. So it's not just limited to a relationship. I just think in general, if you got a level-headed, a quality friend, partner, whoever it is, they're going to help you better prioritize it in many cases.
True. However, I don't want to take away from people's power of them being an individual, of them being able to say that even as a single person, an individual, even if you don't have anyone on your team, quote unquote, yet, you can still set quality priorities.
Right.
Because it's for me, the power is in the individual first. I'm very mindful of not placing someone else's ability to have anything of quality, ability to succeed, ability to progress, or anything like that, only if they're partnered with someone. That takes away the power of the person themselves. So that's why I was asking those questions and giving a little bit of a pushback, just so people understand that even if they don't have anyone else in their life, that means they can be super focused. That means that they aren't dealing with any distractions. And if they are someone who researches and learns from their experiences, or asks questions, or goes to seminars or whatever. And, they get that extra knowledge to where they can then gain the wisdom. A person by themselves can still be successful at setting quality priorities too. I just wanted to say that.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
I'm trying to figure out who determines the quality. You're saying like the quality of the priority. Like, who determines that?
I guess that's a good question. That's subjective. It is subjective.
Okay, good.
I think there's a general understanding of what should be prioritized. And that may not be very clear, but there are certain things. That most people understand should be prioritized, right? And I think outside of those, then it's just up to interpretation. And then also something I wanted to say earlier when you were talking about, is it based off of wants or needs? I think it's really based off of values, which is a combination of the two. And I think the value that a person places on themselves or on life or on whatever is going to determine what they deem priority, which is why I think it's kind of subjective.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely grounded in values. 100%.
Yeah. That's a lot to take in. It is. We done start adding the element of values now.
It's value.
That's the foundation. That's the foundation.
Yeah, values.
Values and the quality of the priority, Now,
that's a great area. That's real great. That's real great. That's 50 Shades of Gray.
It is. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so gray it's almost black. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like dark. Okay, it's almost dark. Okay, it is.
Yeah.
If you talk about who determines the quality of it, okay, because when you put two people together, you would assume that your priority is quality. Like you would assume that. Like you say, okay, I've thought about this. I considered it. I kicked it around a little bit. Seems quality to me. So you just do it. But when you bring that same thing to someone else, it may be a little sketchy. Okay, like it may be a little holes in that thought process about priority, and that's where I see that most when it comes to like your priorities aligning with someone else. Like that's where I see that most. Like there is holes in that particular theory because depending on who else you have to prioritize, sometimes you have to push past the element of selfish. Like being selfish. Like, because sometimes it's easier to be selfish in your priority, which is putting things that you deem more important above, other people or other situations.
I think the way to kind of circumnavigate that is to surround yourself with people that have like values, right?
Right.
Because that's what happens, right? So when we talk about, pushing your priorities to the side or trying to overcompensate for someone else's, you're probably around someone that has different values than yourself, right? And I think some people very intentionally and others unintentionally surround ourselves by people with similar values, so that hopefully that challenge or that battle of prioritizing our lives and our relationships is a lot easier because we've got someone with a similar value system who can see where we're coming from, relate, and accept it a lot better.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how often does it happen. You know what I'm saying?
I think more than you think. I think that's part of the relationship process. Most people are looking for someone, amongst many other things, that share similar values. In those conversations you have, you're either subconsciously or consciously trying to probe their value system. Some of the questions you may ask, some of the things you guys talk about. It's a focal point, whether people realize it or not. And that's because now you want to prioritize you guys' lives together and relationship together. And it's very difficult to effectively do that with completely different value systems.
Oh, I would agree with you on that one. It is extremely difficult. That like, it is. That it is.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Which is a lot different than just determining, like, you know, the other factors that go into setting your priorities, right? Like, you know, different wants, needs, quality, all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
All right.
So I think that whenever it comes to like setting priorities too, I think I guess people knowing that there has to be a small level of room for error in those setting of priorities is a good thing too. Like I said, no one's perfect. So when you set that first priority, your first set of priorities, it's hit or miss. Like you may be right? Like you may think that these things are right, but also you may be wrong, and you may just be going down a rabbit hole, and it ends up being like bad, leaving room for error or mistakes to happen. I think it could help people too, right?
For sure.
Yeah, it's similar to the process of discovering your purpose. You know, it's a process, and anytime that you're dealing with anything that's a process, change is going to take place at some point. So definitely giving yourself some grace. You know, even if you set a priority and then it turns out to not necessarily be set properly, whatever, you know, whoever determines that, give yourself some grace to make an adjustment.
Right.
Because you're you know, we're learning not even just other people, but we're constantly learning ourselves on a day-to-day basis as well. So things are going to change.
It's true. Because we're constantly changing, you know. So you can understand why the priorities would change, and you can also understand that you have to give yourself that grace.
Yep. And it goes with what you were saying earlier, Josh, about you know, does age, wisdom, life experience, you know, is it accounted for whenever a person is setting their priorities? Yeah. Because what you may set as a priority at 25, I can almost guarantee you that is going to be different when you're 33. And then it's going to change again when you're 42. And it's going to change again when you're 50.
Oh, it's definitely changing.
Or 55 and you're 55. That was for you, Emmanuel.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Hey, I would be hurt if I wasn't looking forward to the AARP card. Okay, I would be hurt. Okay, I would be hurt. Okay, hey, I'm getting in on that early bird special. I'm sorry. Okay, like I'm in there. Okay, like if I get to eat a steak at 5, oh shoot, I'm good. Okay, that worked. You see?
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm like that. It worked for me.
I ain't mad at you. Not as well.
Hey, I'm just saying. Dude, I'm like that. But that's the thing that brings me to that other part too. Like how often should a person realign their priorities? Like, is it like a timetable for that, or is it just like depending on like once you think about it, then that's the point where you want to realign your priorities? Like, should it be like a daily check on that, or like a monthly check, or a yearly check on your priorities or something, or should it just be like, let's just flow with it until it stops working? Like, when should you reassess your priorities?
I think an annual check sounds reasonable, right?
Okay, because this is my thing. Like,
I was about to say as needed though. I don't know if it's annual, once a month, twice a month. I think it's as needed because even throughout the year, sometimes you got to check yourself and your priorities depending on what's going on in your life and depending on how much you've changed between the first time you set that priority to now. Because you change, you forever evolving. So why when your priorities evolve or change?
Okay.
I think it's as needed.
Okay, so that brings me to my next thing. As needed, by whom, though? You know what I'm saying?
By you, not nobody else.
Because sometimes
Nobody else can determine what you need.
Think about it. Don't think you ain't heard this before, right? Somebody say, hey, you need to change your priority.
No. No. Because it is funny because people will tell you your priorities in the wrong place. How you know? Do you even know where my priorities lie? Have we had that conversation? Are you saying that based on my action? But that doesn't mean my priorities in the wrong place. I have to give myself room for error.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the thing about priorities is the person owns their own priorities.
Uh-huh.
Right? Even if they're like the furthest thing from what makes sense. And that's what makes it difficult to address, right? Because they own that decision to determine for themselves what they want to prioritize. And that's where, it gets to be difficult to judge someone's priorities for themselves because they may have different values, right? It just depends on the way they want to live their lives. So it's just really difficult, when you just talk about critiquing someone else's priorities, you really can't. You can't because their priorities are based on their value system. Unless you have a serious conversation and you learn their values and you, based off of their values, you align their priorities, right? So if you say you value financial freedom, this is what you're doing, ABC, that is not leading towards financial freedom. And then you have a conversation with someone and that could potentially help them realign their value, realign their priorities based on their values.
Right.
I don't think outside of knowing someone's value system, understanding it, and helping them to more properly align their priorities to that, can you truly critique someone's priority.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though people try all the time.
Mm-hmm.
People are living their lives according to their priority. So you're trying to change someone's life, essentially, right? There's going to be a lot of resistance towards that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're living their life, but you only get one of, right? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
According to this idea they've come up with in their head, it's going to be very difficult to get that to change without some rationale, logic, and friendliness while doing that.
Okay, so you said rationality, logic, and friendliness was the last thing you said, right? It
has to be well received.
Okay.
It can't be like thrown upon them. It has to be well received. Like they have to feel like you're trying to help.
Yeah, they have to buy into it first.
Right.
You need to receive their permission first before, of acceptance, before they even consider your suggestions.
Right.
That's the interview. That's exactly what I was trying to say. She said it's so much better.
You was trying to say that for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You realize that, but I don't know about you now.
You said a lot, okay? Because you said a lot, okay?
That's exactly what I was saying.
You did. You said a lot.
Yeah.
What she said was like 2 lines. They're like, boo, boo, we good. Like, that's it. Like,
right. Yeah.
You said you did 14 bars. Like you did like all that. Like it was out there. Like
she just put it in a better perspective. That's all she did.
It was good.
I went around the building.
Perspective. Something a little bit more simpler.
Yeah. I went around the building.
Both versions was good.
You went through it. Yeah. Okay.
So they got the long version and they have the short version.
Both of them were good though. I ain't gonna lie. Both of them were good. It was, okay? Like it was just like hearing it in repeat, right? Like, cause he hit me with it, and she hit it too. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. It was good. Like
Josh on it on one a day.
It was like
Josh on
it was a lot of information, right? Like as soon as you finish talking, I was gonna ask you to simplify just a little bit, right? Because I was like, just a little bit. Man.
And the energy came through.
Yeah, and she did. It was like she was reading your mind. She was like, okay, maybe it was a lot. So let me take it back. So
I think she was reading your mind.
Probably that too. Actually, she was probably reading my face. Like she was like
that. Because he was over there like,
I'm like, see? Yeah, that's what she was doing. She was reading my face, man. Because I was like, okay. Because I was about to hit you with that question. Did she hit it at the right time? Like she did. Yeah. So that was good. Like that. Okay. Oh man. You working like the Bulls in the 90s, man. It's good. I like that. Hey, it's teamwork. Dude. Hey.
this is gonna be a long episode.
Oh man. Oh my gosh, man. Oh man. Priorities, man. Oh man. I don't know. I thought whenever we would start talking about priorities and how priorities are set and things like that, I figured that this conversation was gonna go multiple ways, like I did. And I think we definitely hit the mark on like how these priorities are set and how they kind of work, and how you determine like your own individual priorities in your life and or relationship. I mean, I just think that sometimes, yes, I would agree with most that it'll be a little bit easier when you're not with someone to set priorities than it is with someone to set priorities, because when you set priorities when you're with someone, then you have to sit down and have a conversation about your individual priorities. And then you got to somehow meet in the middle after that. And that comes with a lot of, discussion, maybe some conflict resolution, maybe a lot of compromising and, a little meeting in the minds and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot more complicated, like it is. But I mean, that's the thing about priorities. Like they have to be set in a way where whatever your goal is in life, you're able to hit it like efficiently. Like you're able to meet whatever that thing is. Because that's the thing, if your priorities are not aligned, you're definitely gonna know. Like either you're gonna find out or somebody's gonna walk up to you and tell you, hey, it's something not right about what's going on in this situation. Like that's the thing about priorities. Like people are, or most people will tell you when you're doing something that's not right. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if these are people like around you and stuff like that, that will probably be the first thing that they tell you. They're like, hey, this don't look like you doing this like correctly or something.
Why are you doing that?
Thank you. Like that'll be the first
I want to.
You're doing it wrong.
See? That's what I mean.
Oh.
Exactly. See? And that's exactly how the conversation goes.
And that's how the conversation goes, according to you, because you might do it differently, because your priority is a little bit different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's exactly how the conversation goes.
It does. Yep. It goes like that for most people right there. Like that, the same script. It goes the same way. It does. But that's the interesting thing about that. And it has to go back to what I was saying earlier. It has to be a genuine conversation about how individual priorities can align, pretty much. And I like what Emmanuel was saying about values and stuff like that. And your priorities are kind of connected to your values or what you value. And what's interesting about having a priority conversation is you can't change a person's value. Like whatever that person values, if you try to change a person's value, then you can get pushback. Right? So that means that their priorities may not change even though you had that conversation, because that's what they value. Or that's how their values are set, you know?
I think values can change, though.
They can, and they will, according to the person.
It's kind of hard.
I think when you're having a conversation and a person explains their value to you versus what their priorities are, I think, one thing about it is, if you feel like you would like to have a conversation, you have to come in love. They have to be in acceptance, and you have to come within love. You cannot come with being very rowdy or from a negative standpoint, because they're not going to receive it regardless.
I'm still trying to figure out how can a person's values change.
They values change. Like, your values change. Have your values changed when you got?
If you change a person's value, you change the person.
Not so much if you change them. You can give a person a different way of looking at things. So you having a conversation with me, and me and you talking, and you was like, well, Aphrodite, I see it this way. If I go and think about it, it's not so much you changing me, but I'm like, man, that might can work a little bit differently than the way I'm doing it. So then I changed my value on it.
You changed your mind. Like, you didn't change your value.
And so we keep getting the same result, right?
Now, one thing I will say is I do believe in order for values to change, something big has to happen, right? So I don't think if they're values that someone is strongly rooted in, something big has to happen in order for that to happen, right? So let's just say someone values money. They chase money all their lives, they get the money, they have a whole lot of money, and then I don't know, they let's just say something traumatic happens, they lose all their money, right? Family steps in, helps them out, gets them back on their feet. They survive without money, and now they realize the value of family has a lot more significance than the value of money, right? Now, value system has changed. I value my family because when I had no money, they were there. I chased this money, neglected my family. Now, I realize there's a lot more value in my family. So now I no longer value money more than I value my family. And the system changes just like that, right? But that's a big situation,
Yeah, that's a very dramatic change.
So it's a dramatic change, but dramatic things happen to us, all of us, right? No matter who we are. It might not be that,
right.
Be anything. Maybe you value your spouse over your family. Your spouse did something, something tragic or something that was unforgivable, or, and then you decided, all right, I may have placed too much value on my spouse, opposed to whatever else, family, close friends, whatever it is, and then. Is
it really that value though? Is it the expectation you placed on them and it just hurt your feelings?
It might be value, but maybe in your next marriage, you determine that you don't want to place as much value on your significant other as you did before, because due to your prior value system, you put yourself in a position where you never want to be again, because you overextended for your spouse, right? So if you happen to get married again with a different value system, now you don't place as much value on that person or that significant other, because you've learned through a prior experience that may not be, exactly, ideal for you. So then there's a value system where it comes to your spouse. The spouse has fallen a bit lower on the value system because of the general idea of overextending yourself, your spouse. It's not the person per se, it's the role. It's the role that's lost value. It's the role. And that's for, like I said, normally when we talk about values, in my opinion, it's a strong feeling or a strong root, and that can be uprooted with something big. Like I said, in my experience, something big has to happen. It's not little. your value change off of something little, then like Josh said, you probably change your mind. It's probably a mind change, not a value change.
Hey, look, for me, this conversation, I think there's a lot more to it, right? I just don't think we have enough time to get into the rest of this because I really want to go a little bit further than that. I do, okay? Because I got a whole bunch of extra questions to this. I do. I do. But I think this is a great way to end this episode on that note, okay? So, thanks again for joining us on this fun episode of Added Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm Coach Nrgy.
I'm Aphrodite.
And I'm Emmanuel.